Ready? All right, it's 9 o'clock. It's time to call this meeting to order. Today is a special session. Items for commission action today will be A, consider submitting grant applications for the Independence Municipal Airport, and B, consider authorizing staff to work with Montgomery County and cities within Montgomery County to consider developing an RFP to study consolidation of 911. Other items at 10:30, there will be a site tour at the 1916 City Hall, and then at 11:30, there will be a discussion concerning the 1916 City Hall. So let us begin with item A.
Mayor, we have Chief Jerry. Oh, wait, sorry, wrong island.
Yeah, Mike?
You're good.
Got ahead of it.
Mike Conway, you're good. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Everybody, how are y'all?
Yes.
I believe you got the memo on this. These grants were first submitted in 2017. They're usually for a 2-year cycle, so you don't have to resubmit. But this year, KDOT changed their procedure. So if you want the grants to go forward, we have to resubmit this year also for 2021.
Okay.
Sorry about that. But, as you can see, it's all broken out. These are the same grants we submitted in 2017. So, if you guys want to resubmit, I think David has all the paperwork and everything. So if you have any questions, just let me know on these. Or it's,
Okay.
just what we submitted before. So.
Okay, I understand here, according to the information the staff has provided us, as far as budget impact, the city's share of grant number one, Kelly, on the screen here is September 26th, 2019.
We're trying to get the projector up too.
Okay. The city's share of grant number one would be $74,500, and the city's share of grant number two would be $22,000 plus a cost of $750 for engineering services.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And basically, this is grant money that we're looking for due to the change in rules by the government. We would need to go ahead and resubmit this.
Yes, sir.
In order to be eligible to potentially get these grants. So
That's correct.
Okay. Gentlemen, you have any questions?
No, I didn't have any
30
questions.
minutes.
It seemed like the best thing to do is go ahead.
Yeah,
Runway
if you don't
improvement,
get it
but
again, you can keep resubmitting. I mean, sometimes it's better to keep resubmitting, be a thorn in their side, to stand a better chance to get the cash.
Sure.
Hopefully it'll work out this time.
That would be great. Anytime we can get grant money, that means it's not coming out of, the
Correct.
majority of it's not going to come out of our pockets. So
Right.
this seems like
Right.
something that we need to move on. So, Mike,
All
thank
right.
you. Thank you for
Thank
the
you all.
information. I make a motion that we move to resubmit grants for the Independence Municipal Airport Terminal Building renovation and to remark runway 17/35. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item B, consider authorizing staff to work with Montgomery County and cities within Montgomery County to consider developing an RFP to study consolidation of 911. Chief Harrison, how are you this morning?
Good. How are you, gentlemen?
Good to see you.
Fantastic. Where do you want to start on this?
Where do you want to start?
Well, there's only 11 pages there to discuss. So
Start on page 11.
work our way back. I agree. We'll start on page 11.
In conclusion,
Yeah, I think I don't know, I had a chance, I don't know if other commissioners had a chance to review, and I think you said in your email that you sent this out for review to others in the county. So, just kind of maybe just a brief summary, but not go through in detail. That's what I would think. We're kind of familiar with what you've included, but
Just kind of the highlights.
Sure. So the purpose of this is kind of twofold. The first one is kind of the whole point we're here today. in discussing it with Kelly is that we're looking for guidance in moving forward. This is just a first step of many steps. And so we need your guidance to, if you direct city staff to move forward and reach out to the other administrative bodies around the county and get together and discuss this and see where they're wanting to go, and then arrange for, at that point, then it would fall on Kelly's hands and the other administrators around the county to arrange for the commissioners around the county to get together and work this out. But in a brief overview of what the second purpose of this is to make clear the complication of this. And I've been involved in implementation. I've seen implementation myself in the organization that I came from, and I've seen implementation in other areas that did not go well. And I looked at, in discussing it with people, and talked with Rick Whitson the other day, and he said, just because it didn't go well here doesn't mean it won't go well somewhere else, because it does go well in places. So I researched where does it go well and why, and it's because they invested in a study to determine the resources that are going to be needed and who's going to pay what for it and what the different options cost. So that's what this is. That is to sell this. This is to sell the study. So the first thing to consider is there's 4 different levels of consolidation. There's full consolidation, partial consolidation, co-located consolidation, and a hybrid consolidation. And right now we're kind of functioning in a Coffeyville somewhat of a standalone full consolidation for the areas they serve. And then we're a hybrid consolidation where we are partially consolidated and co-located. So we have some level of consolidation, and then the study just compares similar-sized organizations as to what ours would be if we were consolidated, and that's Garden City and Cali County, and we don't need to go into the numbers unless you desire to, but they're somewhat similar to what I would expect our numbers to be. It also details what I found. One of the most interesting things I learned from this was when I analyzed the 911 call flow and worked with stakeholders around the county, I found out that Coffeyville is dispatching for a large number of agencies, if you look at that. And then we are also dispatching for an even larger number of agencies because we do field those 911 cell phone calls from around the county. So we get all 911 cell phones into our dispatch. So that means that we're transferring calls to Coffeyville so that they can dispatch them out to their partially consolidated area. So that leads to a pretty high level of consolidation at this point. But those are kind of the main points. And then another thing to consider is that we're going to, if there was a change of personnel, how do we want to handle the duties that dispatchers do? Because they do some collateral duties as well that would have to be handled. And as always, there's options. You can contract with the dispatch organization to do that, as they do over in Cali County, or each organization can staff for that. And so I took a look at that as well. You should be familiar somewhat with the records duties, as we've kind of discussed those before, and that's that same table that's in there to demonstrate the level that a records duty or records work that we're doing now. And so as you can see, under consolidation, we would want to consider as an option to be studied, do we want to put on another records clerk that can fill in those collateral duties that dispatchers do? And there's a lot of other collateral duties that need to be worked out, such as who's going to enter the database, who's going to put data into the criminal justice databases. So that's your wants and warrants, stolen items, probation and parole, all that kind of stuff. The list goes on. So there's a lot that dispatchers do that really isn't necessarily related to sending a call out and communicating with emergency services personnel. So there's a little bit of information there about 911 funding. I think that it's important that everyone understands that 911 funding has it really locked down tight as to what you can spend 911 money on. And so there's radio equipment you can spend 911 money on, and there's radio equipment you cannot spend 911 money on. So you have to be careful and pay attention to that. There's a penalty if you use 911 money inappropriately, depending on what the 911 Coordinating Council deems the error to be. If they deem it to be inappropriate, then there's a penalty. If they deem it to just be a mistake, then they work with the organization to get it worked out. But some discussion of that. And I think probably the most important thing in the study is the limitations of the study and the questions that are left unanswered. And so if you look through that section, the people that I worked with to develop this study, we're not a research organization. We are emergency services administrators and supervisors. And so while we may be able to do quite a bit of good research, there are organizations out there that this is all they do, is go in and look at all the questions that are left unanswered here, as well as all the other things discussed, and give you options. And so I have sent this off to one organization that does that kind of thing that I found in doing my research. They were supposed to have an idea as to what a proposal for a study like this might cost. I haven't gotten that back yet. However, I'll get to that next. The next section is going to be challenges to consolidation, and there are a number of challenges, but when I look at the studies that are done in other areas around the country for consolidation, none of the challenges that are here are unique to us. They're typical challenges that every group faces when they move to consolidation. The same with the unanswered questions. If you go back a page and see those unanswered questions that were discovered in the research process, none of those are unique to us. Those are all things that have had to be answered somewhere else. And again, that lends credibility to the need for a study. So the final thing that I'd like to talk about is I was hoping to have a price by today. I was supposed to have a price by today to kind of ballpark it for us. I don't have that. The organization reached out to me this week and said, we're going to have it to you any day now. And I think that was Monday or Tuesday. So I haven't got that from them. But in doing some research, I found Madison County, Illinois, a population of 265,000. They had 16 PSAPs, 27 municipalities, and one university, and it cost them $47,460 for their study. So some of the other organizations that consolidated, they're going to be in the range of from around 68,000 on up to $500,000, somewhere in there, that are going through this consolidation process. So I couldn't find anything that I said, well, that's a good ballpark for us. So I just don't have an answer for that. I think one of the most interesting things that I saw when I was researching other organizations that had gone through consolidation is most of them are in Illinois because they had a state law, an Emergency 911 Act, that went through county by county, it looks like, and required them to consolidate. So like Madison County was required to consolidate from 16 PSAPs to 8 PSAPs, and they had a 3 or 4 year time frame to do that. So I think it's interesting to see, why are you doing what you're doing? And I think that's something that if we move forward with this, we need to look at what are we going to call success? Because saving money is not success. Because we could save money right now. We could cut down to one dispatcher, but then you're going to have how many hours a week that you don't have dispatch coverage. So saving money, I know it's a ridiculous comparison, but we have to look at it and say saving money is not success. So what is success? And I believe and I think that we should move forward with a definition of success that goes along with saving money without jeopardizing emergency services to the citizens we serve. So maybe efficiently providing emergency services to the citizens we serve. And I think that's what success is.
Yeah, I can see that, Jerry. Either we're shooting for better service, option A, or B is maintain the same quality of service at a lower cost. Then I think either one of those is a success. But
I would, and I agree with that. We just don't want to jeopardize where we're at now just by losing sight of the goal. And
Sure.
I don't think anybody in this county is going to lose sight of the goal, because we're all relying upon this system as much. I could have a medical emergency, I could get hurt, I could need police help just as much as you someday. If I'm probably more likely, just because of what I do for a living. So I mean, I want the system to work. I want it to work well, and I'm also, this is my career, and this is what I've chosen to do, or what I've been called to do. And so, for that matter, very personally and deeply desire that this system work very well. So I think, like you said, we need to find the most efficient way to do this to provide the best service that we can.
Jerry, all the commissioners and I know all the staff have always said we want to be great partners with everybody in the county. The county, I really appreciate Rick Whitson being here, Cherryvale, Coffeyville, Caney. But if we hire a consultant and they say we should do one central dispatch and we should locate it in Coffeyville, are we going to be good with giving up our dispatch? And if not, is Coffeyville, if they said that we should be in Independence, I don't want to have territorialism, but I can envision both cities saying we like having dispatch right where it is.
We do.
Yeah. So
I mean, I'm not gonna
Sure.
I'm not gonna mess around with that at all. We do.
no, absolutely, and I know Coffeyville does too. So
But I'm gonna throw.
So you said, why are we doing what we're doing? So I'm just not real clear that there's a huge potential benefit to this study, I guess.
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Okay.
And
So the study's a place to start.
the study's the place to start. And to go to your question, you're hemming it down too tight, because this study, from what I've seen, this study is going to come back and it's going to say, option A, Coffeyville, X thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. Option B, a county facility that hasn't been built yet, X number of dollars. Mm-hmm. Option C, Independence, co-located, whatever. They may come back with 6 different options.
Sure.
And that's what I saw when you look at this study from Madison County, Illinois. I'd be happy to send it to you if you need something to help you sleep at night.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Sometimes.
Having trouble sleeping.
But I'll send that to Kelly,
Okay.
and you can get an idea. It's probably 20 some odd pages that you'll never get back in your life, but they do. They go through there and they lay it out so you can see. It's a great study, because I learned a tremendous amount from it. I thought I knew about consolidation when I started on this project. It turns out I really didn't know too much about it. I just knew what I had experienced, and anecdotal is not a good way to move through life. And I thought, boy, this really opened my eyes as to how we need to do this and why it's important. So there's a lot of options.
Gotcha.
So you can't just say,
gonna be one or
option
the
A
other.
or B. And one thing to consider is, in doing this, Coffeyville's made a significant investment in their dispatch center. And so if Coffeyville said, we're still paying for this, there's no way we're going to let it go, that's okay, because there's a portion of the study that considers assuming others' assets. And then what's the compensation for that going to be? And then as far as you're concerned about control, that's probably one of my biggest worries is right now, if a dispatcher is not providing the service that I think needs to be provided, I can walk in and I can fix it today.
Right.
If it goes somewhere else to a central dispatch, that goes away. So but the study takes care of that. How do we control it? And one way to do that is to have a board of directors and all the decision makers for your area stakeholders sit on that board of directors. So that director, that EMS or that dispatch service is actually going to be working for your police chiefs, your sheriffs, your EMS directors, your fire chiefs. So there are just so many ways to do this, and that's what's intimidating about it. And that's why I said just let's don't even talk about this. Let's study it. Let's bring in the pros and let's do it right.
I think when you look at the purpose of the study is really to approach the situation with a blank mind. And when you say, I want it here, I want it there, I want control, they want control, It's like going to buy a new car and you say, I want it to look like a 57 Chevy.
Yep.
It's not going to happen. But when you look at the primary goal is to better serve the people, and from reading your study, we're not talking about Montgomery County, we're talking about a region. Because as you
That's
identified, Coffeyville goes into Oklahoma, but with the potential for a central dispatch, then we come up to looking at a region of service. And how are we going to serve that region better? And better is provide better emergency dispatch. That's our goal. And how are we going to do that? Well, when you address that goal, where it's located has nothing to do with it.
Or who manages it?
Or who manages it.
That's right.
After you find how this system is going to work best for the people, then you start breaking it down to location, management, and you've got to be, I don't want to say negative, but you've got to be objective to say there's problems in doing this. How are we going to address those problems? That's reality, and you've identified some already. That after you identify how is this going to serve the people of our region better, then you start saying, when we do that, then if I don't feel I'm getting satisfactory dispatch for my district, then how can that problem be addressed? That's the next step in the study, to identify one solution, like you're talking a board, but you've got to identify the problems and come in. But first, the primary goal is how can we provide better dispatching? And when you say we receive all the 911 cell calls and then we transfer them to Coffeyville or to Montgomery County, well, right there's an obstacle for error, for delay, and I could see an area of improvement right off from that description. So there is benefits that we can consider in solving with the study, but that doesn't mean we have the solution yet.
No, we don't have the solution, and that's I guess that's kind of the most important thing to me, is that everybody walks out of this room with an understanding that, going back to Gary's question, how do you answer that question? First of all, how do you even pose that question? And I don't mean to be critical, but that question, there's so many answers, there's so many ways it can go, and we need to really look at it. And like you said with the transfer calls, that is a delay of service. When you consolidate, you eliminate, for the most part, you're going to eliminate transfers of calls. So there is a problem that is on the table to be solved. But then again, there's some other problems that come in, just like you said. Another thing is the potential loss of redundancy. Well, the way that the 911 system is, and most of us around here are NG 911 now. So the argument could be made, well, it's good to have two centers here because we have redundancy. So the way the system's set up, it's going to automatically, if we have a problem with our 911, it's going to automatically start routing to Coffeyville. So we can just grab our dispatchers and chuck them down that way, and they can go set up shop and they can get to work right away. I mean, we'd have an hour, 2 hour delay at the most, and we'd be back in business. Same with county. So we're all kind of backing each other up. But then again, there is a solution to that, and that's partnering with other PSAPs in the region. It's going to be a lot more trouble, but it doesn't mean it's off the table. So for every solution, there is a problem. And so you just have to start weighing those out and, which solution has the least obstacles involved. And that's why we need this. That's why we cannot wing this. That's why we can't do this with the people that are in Montgomery County. We need to bring someone in here that does this for a living, that can help us look at all the, because my guess is when those guys can, if we do the study, they come in here, they're probably going to find stuff that the group that worked on this didn't know was something we needed to worry about.
And the study isn't a decision, but it's a tool to make a decision.
It's, in the council of many, there's wisdom. And that study just brings more people in that can help us make a better informed decision with more information. That's all. That's the purpose it serves. And then there's be a follow-up study to that if we move forward, which would be assessing, what's each organization going to pay into this project as far as ongoing services going down the road. So, but this is the first step.
Or does it become a taxing entity of itself?
And that's what the next, this study I think would help with that. But the next study, once that decision is reached, then the next study would come in and say, okay, Independence, you're going to pay this much a year, and you guys are going to pay this much a year, and here's our menu of services, and we move forward from there.
Since it is serving a region, it could be assessed kind of like our school districts are to everyone within that region. So that, as you get one problem, there's a solution, but it kind of leads to another problem to be addressed, and look at those solutions too.
They're just
till you
decisions.
get down to the end.
Yeah, it's just a series of decisions, but each one of those decisions is really important, and that each one of those decisions should not be based on my experience from what I saw at Consolidation. It shouldn't be based on what we talked about happened over in Cali County when they consolidated. It should be based on good, scientifically gathered, objective information, and that's because we can all sit around and talk about, well, this happened to me and that happened to me. But as Rick reminded me the other day, maybe it didn't go well for you, but that didn't mean it didn't go well in a whole bunch of other places. So you really got to step back and approach it from a practical perspective. What's going to best serve our constituents without, and at the most economical, in the most economical manner. And I would envision it being some sort of population cost similar to what you're saying, like a school district would pay. I would estimate that, we'll look at the population and divide it across the population and then apply that population to each entity, and that's what they pay. Or it could be a taxing deal, like a school district or the community college.
Well, like you come back to the beginning point is a independent study from someone outside that's skilled in the knowledge of putting it together to come in and lay the lines. Then you work down the list of obstacles.
You choose the obstacle, or you choose the obstacle. You don't get to choose your obstacles, do you? When they look, you choose the option. They're gonna. Hopefully, the study would come up with a list of options, and then the decision makers around the legislators around the county would have to come together and work on which option they want to compromise to or consensus-wise. And then we come back and we figure out how it's going to be funded. And that's when we would answer. Would it be a taxing body? Would it be a subscription service? And how would it be managed?
Well, the whole purpose of this, each question brings another question. It's a complex issue. And the people that would be involved in this study have gone through with many, many other communities and identified, who was successful, who wasn't, why they weren't successful, and have identified areas to where they've corrected those potential pitfalls that have come up. And I agree. We need to have someone that comes in and offers professional services, that this is what they do. They go in and look at where county is looking at and cities are looking at consolidation, because they've seen the issues that this has come up with. But I think that's something that we need to move forward on, in my opinion. We need to get a study and have them identify what the issues would be, and there's many of them because we're working with so many entities here within Montgomery County. But the ultimate goal is to operate efficiently, effectively, and improve what we have now. We don't want to go backwards, or we don't want to do this haphazardly. We want to make sure that we're looking at everything that's going to be involved and come up with an answer or a solution to potential problems that may come up with. And there will still be bugs that will need to be worked out, because I've never been involved in a system to where there weren't bugs that went out. You know, when I worked for Westar, each little community had a dispatcher, and then they took all the dispatchers away throughout the service territory, and they set up dispatch in Wichita. They had one for transmission, which was anything over 69 kV, I believe, and then anything under that was another set of dispatchers, and they handled all calls involving crews, field workers, emergency calls. If you had an emergency situation, they handled that, but it was hard to get used to because when you had someone right there in your office that you could go to and work with, that was very uncomfortable giving up that security. And over a period of time, they worked bugs out of it. And the system, at least what I've been told now, I've been away from them for 4 or 5 years now, but it does work very well. But there were a lot of concerns, there were a lot of problems that they had to work out because it wasn't a smooth transition. So I think we're moving down the right path and getting all the information we can so we can make an informed decisions moving down the road and proceed with what this is going to look like with all the stakeholders involved.
You know, that, as you noted, we're far from the first bunch of folks to ever think about doing this. And so everybody else that ever did this had their own unique set of problems that they encountered. And so using these folks would give us the benefit of learning and avoiding those errors from other organizations that move through this. You know, one problem to consider when you move away from a local control, probably you found out in your experience with Westar that dispatcher didn't know anything about the geography of your area. And so, you know, that's something we're going to run into because you guys may not realize this, but when people call into 911, they say things like, well, I'm right down the road from where the old Brahms was.
Yeah.
Which when you're me, that doesn't mean anything at all to me. You can't dispatch me to down the road from the old Brahms. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, it may work for most of the people back there in emergency services. Rick's probably laughing, and Becky's probably laughing. But doesn't do me any good because I don't know where the old Brahms was. And so, you know, you're going to lose. Those are the kinds of things that you have to consider. You know, that's just, it's a problem, and there's a solution there somewhere. So,
And I think you mentioned, or maybe it was in your report, that the dispatchers are doing other duties to fill in, clerk filing, posting on, I'm not for sure the initials, but on databases and all this. And I'm thinking we've got an individual that's dealing in a high-stress situation. They're dealing with emotional calls. They're dealing with life and death situations. How can you walk away from that in a minute to go back filing? How can you transition from filing to being 100% during that call? And I'm thinking, you know, we owe it to our dispatchers to protect them emotionally and that they can focus on doing their task. And as a dispatcher, they're not clerking and filing is an unnecessary task that they're assigned because it's a convenience for us as administrators. It saves us money. But yet, for the ones sitting there handling the call, I can't imagine dealing with some of the situations of children and adults dealing with these crises that can't keep 100% focused on the task at hand to be efficient, getting help there, taking information down accurately. You know, I think it's broader than just dispatching calls, but protecting our dispatchers that they have time that they can, if they need a minute after a call, that somebody is there to assist taking their calls so they can try and regroup or fill in on those calls, because dispatching isn't always a cat up a tree. It's not always something that somebody thought they heard something. There is times that somebody is breaking into my house. My child is lost. My child isn't breathing. And those are the situations that improved dispatching will hopefully address, so we can restructure to provide optimum services all across the board for the citizens of our region. So, I think that the study definitely is a must. I don't see it at all as a waste of money. It's that next step in improving our service, and then also it will give you as chief an opportunity to restructure your department more efficiently. You'll know what the duties of dispatch by the consultant will be. You'll see the gaps that where you're going to have to step in, and we can address those more efficiently too. I know one of the comments was somebody walking in with a situation and they don't have anybody to talk to. Well, there's a solution for that, and maybe interrupting a dispatcher isn't the best solution we had, but it's what we did. So, I see a lot of potential coming to improve not only dispatching and service, but also improving conditions for your job and for your staff.
Yeah, a part of the study will be resource allocation or personnel. And I will clarify one thing. We have moved towards solving that issue to some degree. I mean, we've hired this records clerk, and we'll see how that plays out. But as you know from our previous conversation, we estimate 69 to 88 hours a week are going into records. So for the most part, we've made a huge impact on that. But there's probably still going to be some cleanup. We're probably not going to eliminate that clerking side of dispatch, like you said. So I think that's important. And you hit on another important point. You said that maybe it's cheaper to have them with those collateral duties. Well, I would support your point, because just because something's cheaper, I have learned the hard way in life, doesn't mean it's better. And sometimes you either pay up front or you pay down the road. And we learned that with the rebuilt patrol cars. The research shows that if we would have invested in brand new patrol cars in 2012, we would have had our officers in brand new patrol cars for 4 or 5 years at no more cost than what it costs to field and maintain rebuilt patrol cars. So you either pay up front or you pay down the road. And if you do your research well, then you do it the most efficient way. And so like you said, right now we're paying down the road, because it may look like on paper it's cheaper to have a dispatcher doing a bunch of other duties, but what happens? You and I both know that goes to overtime. Well, overtime, that's not an efficient use of money, because now you're paying someone way more to do a job that you can hire somebody to do for much less. And so like you said, you either pay it up front or you pay it down the road. And anyhow, so for every decision there comes up a problem and another solution for it,
Jerry, has the Coffeyville City Commission discussed this issue? Do you know?
I would not be privy to that.
Okay. So the way this is written, our city staff will be approaching these other entities about participating in an RFP.
Their administrative personnel, not their legislative personnel. Yes. So we'll be working with fire chiefs, police chiefs, city managers, and that's why we're here today, is to get the go forth and figure it out from you guys.
Thank you.
Okay. So all the principal players will have a voice in this. Good.
Yeah, there's no way to move forward without everyone.
Yeah. Agree.
Sounds great.
Sounds great to me. Any more questions, gentlemen?
No.
None for me.
Chief Harrison, thank you for the information. And just a reminder, would you go ahead and forward to Kelly that Madison County, Illinois study?
I certainly will. I think it might be Winnebago County, Illinois.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't-
Whichever
the-
county it was.
The county I got the price on, I think, was Madison, but Winnebago, I think, is the one I got the study on. So
And when you hear back from this group that was to get back with you, that you had talked to, and if they shoot you a quote as to what they would, kind of service they would provide, also send that to Kelly so she could send that
Certainly.
out to us.
certainly,
And the name of the group, so we could go ahead and take a look at that and get some idea of what the cost is going to be.
certainly.
Yeah.
I'll send that information to the other cities and
Yeah.
counties too, so we're all on the
Everybody
same
that's
page and have
involved.
the same information.
I think
Yeah.
you really can't do anything until you get that price. You know, no one can make a firm decision until they get that price tag.
If the price that you're getting was for a study of a much larger district and population, it's not really going to be relevant to what we have. So I'd hesitate to send that cost out unless you have a budget price for a study.
This would be the proposal for our area.
Right.
No, this other one, you're like you said, it's apples to oranges. You're looking at
Right.
250,000 people. So
Yeah.
I just couldn't. This is the only price I could find.
Right.
So
Nothing.
So you don't have any issue with me sharing that? Because
No.
we'll be, okay,
No.
okay, just clarifying.
all right, well, we'll move forward on it. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Do we need a motion?
For all of them, yes. I make a motion that we move to authorize staff to work with Montgomery County and cities within Montgomery County to consider developing an RFP to study consolidation of 911. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Thank you, Chief. All right, we're not due to tour the facility, the 1916 City Hall site. That's scheduled at 10:30, and it is 9:44 is what I've got.
So recess till 10:30?
Yeah, recess until, and then meet back at the
Okay.
City Hall.
Okay, so we will recess until 10:30, and we will meet at the 1916 City Hall at 10:30.
Just at the front steps or?
Yeah, I mean, we'll find each other.
Okay.
I'm not sure where they'll go in at, probably the fire department door along the alley would be my guess.
Okay.
Okay.
It's not a hard hat zone, is it?
There wasn't any overhead, issues when I was in there before, so I don't see that it would be.
Do we need to wear a reflective vest or anything like that? Any?
Not unless you're gonna
PPE?
stand in the middle of the street.
Just if you wanted to be able to hit you better.
Well,
Could happen.
maybe I ought to identify myself.
But it is open to the public.
Yes,
too.
and we have some public, people that have contacted me that would like to attend, so I just told them that it's not ADA accessible because it is a construction zone. So, the elevator's not functioning
Yeah.
or anything, so,
Okay.
as long as they're able to
Now you tell us.
Good.
get through it, then it's welcome to anybody that wants to attend. I think you'll be really interested.
Yeah.
I think so too. All
And
right.
then back here at 11:30 after
Right.
that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Thank you.
You know, Gary, your wife will say, use the
You need
stairs
to do
more
a
often.
motion to recess, you think?
She refuses to use
Do we
elevators.
need to do a motion to recess? We're going to continue on.
I think you probably should say that,
Make a motion?
make it official that you're
Okay.
recessing until 10:30 at 120 North 6th.
Okay, I make a motion that we recess till 10:30, and at that time, we will meet at the 1916 City Hall, which is
120 North 6th.
120 North 6. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries.